To call George Galloway a force of nature really doesn't do him quite justice. As somebody who's an ardent fan of George Galloway and who essentially begged him to come onto the show, and he came onto the show, he is a friend of this show, and before he was a friend of this show, before he even knew who I was, I had binged watched one item after George Galloway after the next on YouTube. You will be massively informed by doing so. That one Mr. George Galloway, who was hosting a radio show, is now back in politics. And not just back in politics, he's running to take down Tom Watson. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you enjoy this content, you find yourself coming to this channel often, please consider supporting this content through PayPal or Patreon. They demonetize the videos often, which is why I am in this kind of indignant position of asking. Even $1 helps. At this point, this content is brought to you by you, and I appreciate you for allowing me to do so. Now, that's it. Let's hop across the pond. One Mr. George Galloway. So why am I bringing this video to you? George Galloway is now running to take down Tom Watson. He's running for the West Bromwich East seat. Now, the reason why this is significant and the reason why this is important is because there's a Brexit item, if you haven't paid attention or didn't know about it. Brexit is taking place. And Boris Johnson, who's most likely going to win, is going to have the exact same parliament that Theresa May had. That parliament that could get nothing through it regarding Brexit. That Boris Johnson has indicated that there will most likely be snap elections, meaning Tom Watson's seat is going to be up sooner than it would otherwise be. That's awesome. George Galloway is going to get airplay now. And what does George Galloway do when you put a microphone in front of George Galloway's face? Well, he's friends of Jeremy Corbyn. And what has been taking place in the context of Labour being labeled as a party of anti-Semitism is outright atrocious and downright dishonest. And one Mr. Galloway is not going to be shy and getting across to Sky News that they are being such. And, not just Sky News, he's hitting mainstream media in Britain in general. And I love it. He has an acid tongue, and he doesn't necessarily mind using it. I'm going to go to Galloway in a moment. One of the videos that I love the most of Galloway is when he's in Oxford Union. And a guy gets up and makes this thing about Iran or something, this kind of identity politic argument about Iran, and he's using this to hit Galloway, and they clap for him. The place is full. Galloway gets up indignant, and he's like, "You're clapping for that? I can't believe you're clapping for that. And you guys are in a higher education." Like, he berates the audience. The reason why this is awesome is because oftentimes the opposite is true. The person, it's hard to hold your disposition when there's a large crowd of people against you. And his response to this wasn't to just kind of accept what the audience had. It was to be absolutely indignant that the audience would even grace that with applause. That Mr. Galloway is going on Sky News. And he has words about how they've been treating Labour and want Jeremy Corbyn. And by the way, he's not even running as a Labour candidate. He's running as an independent. Let's hear him out.
Well, I don't believe she's leaving because of anti-Semitism. I believe you want people to believe that. And the Goebbels is you. And the Times and the other organs that are pumping out this foul slander against the Labour Party, knowing that it's untrue. The Wavertree Labour Party has a Jewish chair. Luciana Berger was 3 times elected as a Labour MP in Liverpool Wavertree. That doesn't sound like anti-Semitism to me. Anti-Semitism is less now than it was when Miliband was the leader, a Jewish leader. There was more anti-Semitism, according to the statistics of Jewish organizations themselves. So it's all a lie. Corbyn is not anti-Semitic. Not a fibre, not an atom, not a molecule of his mind or body could be so described. That is the Goebbelian lie.
The beauty of this, God, I love it when, I love the Scottish accent in general. But I love that he just, do you realize Theresa May, in her last ignoble act, was going after Jeremy Corbyn on his notion of anti-Semitism. Jeremy Corbyn fought to get Jews, Yemeni Jews who were facing persecution, into the UK. He campaigned on getting those Jews into the country. He wanted to get them safe from persecution. That's what Jeremy Corbyn did. The Home Office, at that point, was run by Theresa May. Denied. It was under Cameron, but the Home Office was being run by Theresa May. Denied. This is a farce. Let's let him finish.
Is there a place in your mind then, Mr. Galloway, for pro-Israeli Labour MPs anymore?
Well, I think they're entitled to their point of view, but the Labour Party is entitled to decide that someone so infatuated with Mr. Netanyahu's Israel, like Joan Ryan, who you have not once said today was caught on camera by Al Jazeera. You've got the footage. Show it. Her discussing getting £1 million from Mr. Netanyahu's embassy in London to undermine Jeremy Corbyn and undermine the Labour Party and its leadership. You know that, but you will not tell your viewers that. Caught on camera discussing £1 million bounty to cause problems for Corbyn, cause problems for the Labour Party.
Man these days,
You've painted her today as if she was
putting that point to Joan Ryan.
Well, Joan Ryan, you have painted today as some kind of saintly figure, when in fact she was caught on camera as an agent of the Israeli embassy in London. Why don't you tell your viewers that?
We asked Miss Baker. I've seen the video. We've talked about the video. The video was not about £1 million.
I love that. He holds no punches. It's just, I'm here and you guys are being unfair and I'm going to use my airtime to point that out. This entire thing was essentially a prosecution of mainstream media and the way they've treated Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party, going with this narrative of anti-Semitism. Labour has two enemies. You could say three, but really two. And it's kind of the same thing within the context of the Democratic Party and Bernie Sanders. Well, no, it's not. It's not the same. I'm sorry. Corbyn has two enemies. The Blairites. These dinosaurs who was there when Miliband lost that seat, hated the fact that Corbyn was able to take power because ultimately you have an actual Labour Party. You have a left-leaning. This is not new Labour. This is actual Labour. Blairites, they haven't gone anywhere. They're still there. They're still waiting for their opportunity. Part of the reason that he's running to take Tom Watson out is because he understands that Tom Watson undermines Corbyn at every opportunity. But also the fact that Jeremy Corbyn is for Palestinian rights, which from the standpoint of some people in that party, by definition, makes him an enemy against Israel. These two forces have essentially ended up on that one point of anti-Semitism and using that as a way to attack Corbyn and tear at Labour. If it does not take Corbyn down, at the very least, it may stay his hand on any policies regarding Palestinian rights or Palestinian statehood. By the same token, you also get this thing of tarnishing and smearing this guy with enough force that might, in their mind, take him down. The polling that I showed last time wasn't showing that to be true, but I'm not sure. I don't necessarily live in Britain. And Britain was the country that stood against the Nazis, meaning there's a cultural tradition there that may run a bit deeper than it does in the United States. Meaning I don't necessarily know how hyper-reactive people are and how much of a weapon this is in order to get those hyper-reactive people to be against Labour and believe that there's this kind of ensconced in anti-Semitism. There are people who use sexism, racism, who use anti-Semitism, who use all of these things as scapegoats. It's not that those things don't exist in real life. Those things do exist in real life. There are people out there who exhibit those particular behaviors. But in this case, it's not found to be true. And just because you're for Palestinian rights does not by definition mean you're against Israel existing. Just saying. And it damn sure doesn't mean you're anti-Semite. And there's a distinction and difference in criticizing a state, which is what Israel is, versus criticizing some race or religion or something to that effect. There's a difference in those things. I can criticize Israel in the same way I criticize the United States, or criticize the government of Sudan, or criticize Mexico, or whatever. It's a state. It's not a religious entity. It's a state. There's a difference in those things. It's often conflated in these type of debates. Here's the catch. The thing is, when you conflate those two, though, you also end up with a situation where some people not quite understanding that the two are being conflated, and who may be for Palestinian rights and not necessarily realize that you could be for one and also be for... Look, my point is, people are people. And my disposition on this channel has always been for the defense of individuals. I want people to have individual liberties. It's somewhat of a libertarian argument. But that also means there's a certain degree of defense that goes into the identities themselves. But there's also something to be said about being hyper-reactive and being able to point out objectively when it's being used as a scapegoat, not necessarily being something in reality. There is a percentage of people who will not know the difference. And that percentage of people is a percentage of people that these guys can get and trick into believing that labor is ensconced in anti-Semitism. You have no idea how much I hope Galloway can take Tom Watson out of his seat. But George Galloway is running for West Bromwich East. And he's running to take out Tom Watson. Let's see, who's here? I don't think anybody's going to be here for the story because I don't think my American audience cares all that much about British news. And I'm not even going to keep this one long because I have additional stories that I want to do. If you guys enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support the PayPal or Patreon. Look, it's never going to be easy. And they're never going to give you what you want, whether it's in the UK, whether it's in the United States, and I'm talking about in this case for the lefties. Those things are fought. It's always somewhat of a adversarial process. That's just kind of the system to which we have that avails us. By the same token, this is an opportunity, the first in my lifetime, for real political change to take place. And you're finding those trends to take place not just in the United States, but in the UK. I always say we're the UK's darker brother. Jeremy Corbyn is leader of the opposition. If Jeremy Corbyn can remain such, and if indeed there will be a snap election, Jeremy Corbyn would have the opportunity for the first time, when the polling is literally in his favor, to take power. The same thing is true for us in the United States, by the way. We're fighting our battles. All of these battles are different in the various countries, but each country has their battles. This is ours. Thanks all. If you enjoy the content, like the video, share the video. You can always support through PayPal or Patreon. Thanks everyone. And again, shout out to Galloway.